Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know we still have some people that are filtering in. That is just fine. I'm sure folks will continue to join us as we get started here. My name is Georgia. I'm looking at the list over here. I've got two monitors, so you might see me looking back and forth. And that list is filled with people I may have spoken with or emailed with before. So it is great to see familiar faces, but there are plenty of people who I've never spoken with before. So thank you so much for joining us here. If this is your first time with us, especially, I also have a glass of water here. You might see me drink from it every once in a while. I, like many people, am feeling just a tiny bit under the weather. But let's go ahead and get started. Like you've heard in every Zoom meeting you've been in for the past several years, let me share my screen. Let me find that PowerPoint here. And we are going to get started right from the beginning. But as we're doing that, I would love to get a little bit of insight from some polls that we have. So before we get started, I would love to see, where are you from today? So I've launched a poll. You should be able to see it there. That poll is going to be one of our tools that we have today. The other one that we have is our Q&A box. So do feel free to leave questions. I will do my best to answer them. We do not have a chat box this time. That is just to help streamline those questions and make sure I do get to see them all. But if there are questions that are unanswered after this, or you would like to talk to me individually, you'll hear it a million times. Feel free to get in contact. I would love to be of help in answering your questions. So let's just let folks wrap that up before we end this poll. Any last minute folks, go ahead and get in there. All right, I'm going to end that poll and let's share the results. It looks like we have got some West Coast folks along with some Central Time. I am joining you from the East Coast. Many of you talked to me when I lived on the West Coast, but I've done a little bit of a move since then. And so I am joining those folks who are on the East Coast today. And it looks like we even have a handful of folks that are outside the US. That is wonderful. Super. Well, today we're going to learn a little bit more about human nutrition and functional medicine here at UWS and the programs that we have here. So the first thing I want to show you is the schedule for today's webinar. We're going to do an overview of UWS, the program directors that we have here as well, and then our approach to functional medicine, as well as the programs that we have that focus on that. We'll talk a little bit about what it's like to do online learning, along with our curriculum and some changes to that, along with our entry requirements and all the things that you need to apply. We'll finish up a little bit about tuition and financial aid before we move on to questions and then contact information. All right, and let's see if we can get that presentation a little bit bigger for you. Let's see, we might just switch over to our smaller monitors, see if that helps this. All right, so we will start here from the beginning and we'll go ahead a couple slides. So as I mentioned, we are going to go over a little bit about the human nutrition and the functional medicine program, as well as all the things that you're going to need to get into that program. So anybody who hasn't joined us before, you may not know that we started out over 100 years ago as the second oldest chiropractic college in the world, and we've expanded quite a bit since then. You can see on screen a few of those things that we've progressed through, including adding the human nutrition and functional medicine program in 2012, and then in 2021, adding that DCN. In 2022, we've actually done something very exciting. We have completed a 10-year curriculum review, and that curriculum review goes into play this fall. So we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like as well. And then more information is going to keep coming in the coming months about that curriculum review and what the new modified curriculum will look like. All right, so our first director we'd like to talk about is Dr. Daniel Redwood. He is one of our program directors for the Human Nutrition and Functional Medicine program. He used to practice chiropractic, did so for 25 years before joining us, and has lots of other wonderful things to his name. We're running a tiny bit behind, so I won't be able to read all of them to you, but do check out that screen there to see some of them. He also teaches our whole food nutrition course and supervises the mentorship opportunity in the Human Nutrition and Functional Medicine program. So he's a wonderful person to know. Our second program director I'd like to talk about is Dr. Chris Brown. Dr. Brown is especially pertinent to our conversation because he is actually a graduate of the Masters in Human Nutrition and Functional Medicine. He has done that program before, and now he is an instrumental part in overseeing that DCN program that we're going to talk about. He also teaches the capstone course in the Masters program. So one of the things that we often hear is, as you're looking out there, sometimes we get to brass tacks. Why should you choose? Sorry for that noise in the background. There is a cat who is very concerned with covering her food, so I'll try to talk over that. But why would you choose the Masters in Human Nutrition and Functional Medicine? Why would you choose the graduate program over maybe some of the other programs that are out there? One of the biggest ones is that we are the only institutionally accredited master's degree in human nutrition and functional medicine in the world. That is a narrow scope, of course, but it is one that people are continuing to grow their interest in. It's one that is becoming a bigger and bigger component of healthcare. And so it is surprising in a way that it is us who is focusing on it and not more popular, but there it is. We do have the only one that I know about that is institutionally accredited, and it weaves in those functional medicine principles into every class that you're taking. So not just nutrition, but functional medicine is a real cornerstone of what we're looking at as well. That is through collaboration with the IFM, who were just fantastic friends in making the degree happen, and then have been helpful in informing the ways that we take the degree in the future. We've received high rankings for the degree online, and then also, and this is what many of you may be looking to do afterwards, meets the coursework requirements for various licensures, including the CNF and the CCN. So the CNS and the CCN are ones that we see people head towards quite often. If that might be your goal, we do align with their coursework. We'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like and our changes coming up in this fall. But that is one of the reasons why that change has happened in our coursework this fall, is to make sure that we're always aligning with that, those requirements for that examination. All right, let's let it change here. Take just a second. All right, and some may be asking, if you're looking at the DCN today, actually, perhaps this is a good time to pause. Let's see, who are we chatting with today and what are you looking at? So I would love to know, what degree are you looking for today? Let's try another poll while I check those Q&A, those questions that are in there. Somebody was asking about some of the lists at bestcolleges.com. If you'd like, I can go back and try to find that for you maybe after our presentation. I'm afraid I do not have that list memorized, so I'm not able to let you know what that looks like off the top of my head. But if I can be of help in finding that list, do let me know. Send me an email or send our front desk an email. All right, looks like folks are chiming in. I'll give you just a second. I see a few people haven't answered, which is fine. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end that poll and then share the results. So as I predicted, we've got a good mix in here. A lot of people are looking at that Master's in Human Nutrition and Functional Medicine. I do see that we have a few that say any or all. Some people might be looking for a little bit of a combination program, so to speak, where they might be doing them back to back, or they might be looking to get started with the Masters in Human Nutrition and Functional Medicine. If that might be the case for you, just know there are other people out there definitely looking at the same thing. They might then want to go on to that Doctorate of Clinical Nutrition, and we'll talk about the requirements for that. We have got a little gray friend joining us here that is going to get booted. Sorry, Zuzu. That is zucchini, appropriately named for a nutrition based program. We'll go ahead and stop sharing that with you guys. All right, so let's take a look at that DCN again. So that DCN is meant to be doctoral level knowledge, and it is meant to be something that you're going to take with you into those next steps and do something that I like to call expanding your clinical toolkit. That's what we refer to the skills that you're going to be gaining, the perspectives that you're going to be gaining. you're going to be going deeper into the nutritional content, but you're also going to learn a little bit about what it's like to deal with patients. We do that through a few different things, including a visit to campus here in Portland, Oregon, as well as a standardized patient program that's really exciting. That gives you a chance to try out some of these cases in a safe environment where nobody's at risk, but you're getting to practice some of those skills. It is also in collaboration with the IFM. They, again, are wonderful friends, and it does qualify for financial aid that is available for our master's, our graduate certificate, and our doctorate level. All right, so some people like to say, what is functional medicine? And I'll go ahead and let you read what it says here on the screen before I tell you how I like to frame it. All right, so functional medicine is, for some, that definition on the screen, but what I like to think about when I think of functional medicine is I think about what if there was a leak in the roof of your house. And in maybe conventional medicine, if there's a leak in the roof of your house, they might hand you some buckets. They might say, all right, those buckets can slide right under that leak. When the leak is full, or when the bucket is full, go ahead and toss that water out the door and then put it right under that leak again, and that'll take care of it. For most of us, that would not be a satisfactory solution. So I like to think of functional medicine as, what if somebody were to get up into the roof of your house instead of just saying, hey, here's a bucket? What if they saw, if maybe there was a family of raccoons living in your attic, or a meteor had come through the attic and now there was a bigger issue? You would want to know what the root cause of it is. And so not only are we going to talk about, hey, how can we fix this in functional medicine, but what might be causing it and preventing that discomfort in the first place. So let's talk about the HNFM community. And it's time for another poll. We love them. So I like to hear about your background in healthcare, because I think this can be a really amazing measure of who is in here as well. The HNFM community is made up of a lot of different people with a lot of different backgrounds. Somebody submitted a question about, are we going to talk about a variety of diets? You might see there on the bottom that we say, addressing nutritional controversies in a climate of respect. That really is at the cornerstone of what we're doing here. We have classes that are going to explore many, many different ways of eating, but no matter what you're discussing, no matter what perspective you're coming from, we do insist that you are bringing research-based, evidence-based information to the table. And then we start from there. We do want to have those conversations. We do want to talk about, what is best for who. And speaking of who, let's see who is in here with us now. So as you can see, I love when this happens. It gets like almost a third, a third, a third. So we have some people who have a background in nutrition. We have some people who do not have a background in nutrition. And we have some people who do not have a background in nutrition, do have a background in another healthcare field. That is very, very common. I would say when I am chatting with people, it almost always splits pretty similarly to what we're seeing here. We have people who maybe are registered dietitians and are going a different direction. We have people who are nurses and doctors who are from a different background. And then we also have people who maybe are food photographers, and they have had a run-in with food that has changed their life and maybe has some healing for them or changed their approach to nutrition. And now they have a renewed interest in a new area. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing this, but I do always like to discuss that we have really a wonderful background of people, both within the program that are teaching you and within the program that are going to be right beside you. So we will sometimes get, hey, you're an online community. Do people talk? Do they chat? Do they make friends? That is as much of an aspect of this program as you would like to make it. Some people, this is what they do in their spare time. They've got a very crowded life. Many of us are quite busy, I'm sure. But for other people, this is really an amazing group of folks that are maybe a group that for one of the first times, they don't have to explain why they're interested in this stuff or what it's done for them or how it's changed their life. Instead, they just get to exchange these ideas and be passionate in a community with other people who are also passionate. So really a wonderful group of folks. All right, I'm going to check the Q&A, but go ahead and read real quick about the Masters in Human Nutrition and Functional Medicine, a few of those requirements. These are just the very quickest of overviews here. All right, taking a look, some of these are going to be addressed, those questions, in just a little bit, but I will make sure, I will keep checking in and make sure that we get all those questions answered either now or a little bit later. But the Human Nutrition and Functional Medicine degree, the master's degree, is going to require a 2.75 GPA or higher from any bachelor's degree. But that bachelor's degree does require certain prerequisites. I'll show you these prerequisites in a little bit, but they are biochemistry, biology, nutrition, medical terminology, and then physiology. These are all also available online, and we also love to remind you about all of them. So if you ever need those repeated or you'd like them in one little bundle, let us know. We can definitely send them to you. But this degree is 100% online. It is also asynchronous, so it is flexible as far as when you're sitting down to do the different assignments. And it is a degree that you do not need to come to our campus. So save you a little money on gas in that way. You can log in right at home. It is a 2-year degree with flexible pacing. You have up to 5 years to get that degree done. Let's say about 80% of our students are getting it done in 2 to 2.5 years. It is 56 quarter credits. We are on the quarter system, so 4 quarters in a year. Each of those quarters is a total of 13 weeks, and we'll talk a little bit more about how that's broken down, but the actual class itself is right at 10 weeks with a 1-week final week. All right, for those that are interested in the graduate certificate, this is a great option if you may already have a degree in healthcare that is a master's or higher, and you have a 3.0 GPA or higher in that healthcare degree, and you are also looking for something that's online. It is about half-ish, a little over half of our master's degree. So it is going to hopefully get just the highlights. Most often, people are using this certificate to take the CNS examination. So definitely double check and make sure that this applies to you. Make sure that everything in your background matches with what the CNS and the American Nutrition Association folks need. But for most people, this graduate certificate, very effective way of getting those remaining classes that they might have and preparing them to take that examination. I'll give you just a second to read this as well. Some folks talked about the admissions process and the admissions rate. We'll talk a little bit more about fine details later, but I do like to say, as you're looking at these list of requirements, and I'll head backwards for a second. As you're looking through these, like we mentioned there, that under a 2.75 will require the GRE or MAT, but as you're seeing these requirements, these are what I like to call a very sincere set of requirements. Sincere in the sense that folks who are going down the list and saying, I need that looks good, yeah, that sounds like me, can expect to receive a positive decision. And we know that these are already high barriers to entry. Making sure that you have 5 classes is not a small deal. And so I do like to let folks know if you may have an individual situation you want to discuss, of course, feel free to get in touch with us. We're also very happy to look over things like unofficial transcripts if you might have those as well. So that doctorate of clinical nutrition, this one actually requires the most stringent set of degrees. So it requires not only that 3.0 GPA, but it also requires a master's in nutrition. So nutrition specifically. So far, we have not found an exemption to this rule that we'll be able to pass forward and let you guys know about. It really is going to be one of them that is firm. Oh, let me head back. And I'll let you check this out a little bit, but that master's in nutrition, our master's degree would qualify. We also have a list of some other ones that would qualify. So if that list might be something that is helpful for you, do let us know. All right, and I see somebody has their hand raised. If they want to pop it into the question and answer chat real quick, I will do my best to take a look at that if it is something that is a little bit more urgent. And we'll talk about where you could take these prerequisites a little bit later for that master's program and that graduate certificate. For that doctorate of clinical nutrition, if you might have a degree that you want us to check out, if you're perhaps not sure, that is no problem. We definitely want to check it out as well. So if you're maybe unsure if you could use an extra pair of eyes, do let us know. As you're continuing to look through here, you'll see I mentioned expanding the clinical toolkit. That is definitely the focus of this degree. And as I also mentioned, there is a 4-day on-campus experience in Portland, Oregon. So this is going to be at a set time each year. It's at a lovely time of year, which is great. It's going to be at the end of your very last quarter, but it's going to take place from a Friday to a Monday. It is just once, but this experience is going to verify some of those skills that you will need in the clinic, such as being able to do a physical examination and take the vitals of a patient. Those are things we want to make sure that you have down pat. And so in order to check that off, we do require a small experience here in Portland, Oregon. Another really important thing to note about this. So this doctorate is a 2-year track with a cohort model. This is going to be a 2-year track. It is 2 years firm. It is also 2 years that you are not able to jump on and off of. So it is one that has a set cadence that is moving forward with. And if that might be something that is helpful for you to see, that can be found in our catalog, or I would be happy to send it to you as well. But it's going to be something you want to know about beforehand. The other thing, right now, we are restricted due to visa issues, nothing in our control, unfortunately, to only U.S. citizens and permanent residents due to that degree needing to have some on-campus components, but not having enough to be able to issue a visa for folks that are abroad right now. This all could change in the future, but this is what we currently know. This is a new program that we launched last fall, and this will be the second time we are launching it this fall. So we are getting our first graduating class here soon, and I'm sure that with every graduating and starting class, we'll continue to learn quite a bit more. All right, I'm going to pause this really quick. So I will let you know that this is going to possibly change a little bit. So don't get too attached to any class on here, though most of it is going to stay the same. This is our current curriculum. We've not yet had the updated curriculum given to us, so I wasn't able to post it, but I did want you to see some of the courses that are in here. So I'm going to check those questions real quick. Shut my mouth so you can read some of those things that are on the screen. All right, somebody asked if the rest of that doctorate was online. The rest of that doctorate is online. That 4 days on campus is the only portion that you would need to be here. That graduate certificate and that master's degree, they are both completely online. So as you're looking at this master's curriculum, all of those are at a distance. If you may want to see this as it updates or it may be in the current iteration, go ahead and head to our website, uws.edu, head to academics at the top. You'll see HNFM Masters in HNFM, and then under curriculum is where you would find this. And we're going to head to the graduate certificate one where I will do the same thing. Let you guys just read over some of those. They should look familiar because, again, it is right about half, a little over half of that master's degree. All right, and then finally, we're going to check out that doctorate of clinical nutrition. So this one, sorry, I couldn't get it down into different pieces so you could read it a little bit easier. So you might have to squint a little bit, but go ahead and check these out in case you may be interested. Over here, it says 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the quarters that you would be doing them in. And so if you want to mark those for yourself, that might give you a little hint at when you would be taking each of these classes. And again, you could find this as well, either in our course catalog where we have this list, that's where I stole it right out of, or you can head to our website and head to academics, HNFM, DCM, and then to curriculum. All right, so let's talk about the program structure. So the master's degree and the graduate certificate. So that master's degree is 56 credits. This is going to be the biggest change. This is the change that we talked about a little bit earlier. The CMS has expanded. They have required a few more experiences in somebody's background as far as classes that they've taken. And so to match that, we have also expanded. We also went back and looked at the last 10 years of curriculum and pulled out just the very best stuff and slimmed down the things that we may have gotten feedback before were not as effective or impactful long term. And so that new curriculum, even though you may see some of those same names, that improved curriculum is premiering this fall. So it is going to be a really exciting time for people to start. In those 56 credits, you'll also have 2 electives. One of the prerequisites that we talked about briefly. Biochemistry. Biochemistry is one of our prerequisites that we have folks do the most often. We have a new pathway board for that biochemistry that we'll speak about in just a second, but it would utilize one of those electives if you wanted it to, or folks can keep both of them and then use those towards one of those neat electives you might have seen on a previous page. As I mentioned, we have 4 quarters in a year. They are 11 weeks in the term, and that is going to be 10 weeks of instruction, and then 1 week of a final week, and then 2 weeks of break in between these terms. So they follow the seasons. Right now we are in our spring term. We're going to wrap that up shortly. Then we get our summer term that is starting in July, and then in October is when our fall term starts before our winter term starts again in January. So they stick really nicely with the seasons. And then a common question is, how many classes should I take? Most people are taking 2 or 3 classes each quarter. Most people sticking to that 2. You could bump it up to 3 in some of these quarters if you wanted to, or inversely, some people might decide taking 1 class at a time is what's best for them. If that is the case, that is no problem at all. We have ways forward with that as well. For the time commitment, and this may be a good hint as to which one of these ways is the best for you, that time commitment, we like to say 2 or 3 hours per credit per week. So let's just go with the 3 hours that you see here. Let's say you're taking 5 credits. You might go ahead and budget 15 or so hours. If you're taking 7 credits, which is a full load of courses, that's going to be closer to 20 hours a week. For our doctorate, you can see some of that same math at work here. So that's going to be 65 credits, and there are no electives included with that program. Like I mentioned, it is a fixed track program, so it is going to move forward at a very set rate. It is still that 4 quarters in a year, still that 11-week term, and then we still use that about 3 hours per credit per week. But for most of these terms, you're going to see that you have 8 credits. So this one is going to be closer to 20 to 25 hours a week. All right, a little sneak peek about what it would look like to be in a class. We actually recently switched over to Canvas. We used to use a different program, but if any of you may have previously used Canvas, that is what we are now using. So it's going to look a little bit different by the time that you log in, but there are some things that are going to stay the same in the structure of the program. So for these classes, you are going to have assigned readings that you're doing each week. You may be participating in class discussions. You may have small projects that are assessing your learning, or paper, or maybe a weekly quiz. These things are all going to be taking place online, and they are going to be flexible, as we mentioned. So these are asynchronous classes. These are classes that are meant to happen when it makes the most sense for you. And so even with things like examinations being proctored by ProctorU, the time that you're sitting down to do that examination will be largely up to you. So they'll offer you an array of times that are still free, and you'll choose from there. But for these other ones, you'll have set due dates, and as long as you're adhering to those due dates, there should be no problem in getting that stuff turned in and counted just fine. All right, this is a great place to pause for just a second so you can find your state and take a look. So there are a few different career pathways. I know people were asking about this. So go ahead and take a pause, find your state on that map. All right. So as you're finding your state, you may see that it has a certain color. Most of them are green, some of them are red, a few of them are yellow. I have taken this directly from the ANA, the American Nutrition Association's website. You may see that there is an address up there next to the American Nutrition Association. If you have not had a chance to visit that site, I absolutely would. It's one of my favorite ones. That site is going to let you choose what state that you're in, and then give you all the rules and regulations for your state regarding nutrition, dietetics, anything that may be covered in your state's bylaws. This is something that is great to become familiar with because I am an expert at admission, but I am not a lawyer. And so we do not provide counseling in that way. We are not able to interpret these laws for you. Rather, we leave that up to the experts, and the experts are linked to on this American Nutrition Association website. So people head a lot of different directions after they are done with us. They may become they may be health coaches. They may decide that they're going to be somebody's primary care provider. They may be somebody who is integrating this into a different skill that they have, such as a doula or a psychiatrist. They may be somebody who is going to be a nutritionist or open their own clinic, or maybe be an educator. But most often, we actually see people combine a lot of those goals. So as you see people in the field, they tend to be quite friendly. I would absolutely feel free to talk to them and ask them, hey, what's your pathway here, and what are the things that you do? Because most likely they probably spent a little bit of time in each of these. I know that's definitely true for the people that I've talked to. After you're done with us as well, if you're looking forward, you may be looking into that CNS, that CCN, as I spoke with you about. If you have your doctor of chiropractic, maybe you're looking into that ACBN as another option. But we have a few different ways that we can help you direct your energy. One of those is our alumni services. One of them is an elective that we have that is a great way to get a few of those hours for the CNS. If you may be in an internship already and you are looking to fill that mentorship component of your CNS hour requirement, we do have an elective that, with program director permission, you could take, check in about that internship that you have, and then earn additional hours while you are already in school, already earning credit towards your degree. So there are a lot of great ways forward. And then one of my favorite ones as well is something called Switchboard. It's kind of like Facebook or Craigslist for just our community, where people can post a lot of topics, they can have a lot of discussion, but it is just people in the UWS community that are participating. So you might see somebody looking for a nutritionist in their local area, or we see people selling chiropractic tables or looking for a meetup. There are really a whole variety of things you can find on there. All right, so I saw a few questions about prerequisites. Prerequisites have a lot of ways to be completed. One of our most common questions is, do my prerequisites expire? I took biology back in 1997 or 2007. Does it still count? And for 4 out of 5 of our prerequisites, the answer is yes. So if you might have them in your background, we are happy to count them, with one exception. The one that changes the most, the one that we do need you to be the freshest on, is biochemistry. You may have heard me mention that before, but if you have those other ones, we are happy to count them. Again, if you might not be sure if you have them, if you might need an extra pair of eyes, I can be that extra pair of eyes. We are happy to take a look and pull out whatever we can. We're also happy to tell you about some ways to get them completed if you don't have them. So if you check out this list here, these are some of the most common institutions that I see people look towards for those prerequisite completion options. Portage Learning, very, very popular. You may see there bolded and italicized is new biochemistry options from University of Western States. That is something I definitely want to talk about. Previously, you may have spoken with me and we may have talked about our class that is offered at the undergraduate level. That was our biochemistry class. We have changed things up a little bit. We heard people when they said, I would love for this to not extend my time in the program at all. Could this be covered by federal financial aid? The answer now to both of those is, hey, check it out again. We found a solution. So the new biochemistry option is one that instead of applying to another program, you instead will just indicate to us that I want to take that biochemistry option. We will utilize one of your two electives to fulfill that biochemistry by having you take that in your first term with us here at UWS. So it will slide right into the program as though it is just another elective that you're taking right up front. Once you complete that program, you'll be fully admitted into the program. Your biochemistry will be checked off, no problem. And if you would like to use federal financial aid towards that program or towards that biochemistry course, it will now qualify because it is part of our larger course. So if you may be looking for a solution like that, definitely check it out. There is just one requirement that you definitely want to know about. This is available for people who have chemistry in their background or biochemistry in their background. So if you have taken chemistry previously, you get a C or higher, this is a very, very good option for you. If you maybe do not fit that profile for any reason, another place that you may want to check out that is probably our second most popular place is that Portage Learning that you're seeing on your screen right at the top of that list. And if you would like links to any of these, give me an email after this and I would be happy to send some your way. You'll see my email at the end of this and you'll also see our front desk email. So how and when should I apply? So as I just mentioned, scheduling a phone appointment is great. Chatting with us is great. It is one of the best ways to figure out for you specifically, what does your eligibility look like? Is this maybe a good next step for you? We suggest this approximately 3 to 6 months before the start of your desired term. Our next term starts in October. So this is about to be our busiest time of year. We already see it starting to kind of hit that upswing. So if you have time in June rather than July, if you are not waiting till that last little bit, our very, very final deadline is right at the beginning of August, but our priority deadline is July 22nd. I would aim for those earlier dates. Those interview spots get a little bit crowded. They definitely start getting snatched up pretty quick, and it takes a little bit longer when more people are applying. So right now is the very last little calm before the storm. So if you may be considering pressing submit, this could be an awesome time to do it. As we mentioned, submit a completed online application. There's a $50 fee if that is something that's beneficial to have waived for you, or if you might qualify for a waiver, reach out to us. We would love to have a conversation about that. We can definitely provide that for you. There's also going to be entrance essays that you may see in that essay or in that application online. Do note here, each of these essays is going to be between 250 and 500 words. I refer to them as long tweets rather than long essays. They are brief little snapshots. One of them will talk about your extracurricular activities, hobbies, anything you might like to do outside of the school environment. And then the other one will talk about some of your professional goals. And 250 to 500 words is perfect. And then the last part is we'll ask you about your prerequisite plan. So if you might have them in the past, this is really helpful for us to find them as quickly as possible if we maybe have not spoken before and I've not had a chance to look at your transcripts, but it also tells us about any future plans that you might have. All right, I'm going to check that Q&A real quick while you guys go ahead and read this. We've got a few questions about work-life balance, and I think these are just great ones to address head on. That is often why we hear people join our program. They love the subject, they love the classes, they want to get more deeply into the subject, but they're really busy. They have a full life. Who among us does not right now? And so I do just love to emphasize that this master's program, especially the graduate certificate, is similar in its ability to be flexible with pacing, is able to be slowed down or sped up to meet your needs. You do have up to 5 years to graduate from the program. Most people are completing in between 2 and 2.5. 2 is a very regular amount of time if you're taking a consistent set of classes each term. But maybe there's one term where you're just busy. I just moved across the country. Some of you have told me you're moving across the country. That's busy. So maybe in that term, you take just one class, or maybe you take no classes at all. You do get up to 4 terms off before you would need to reapply to the program. So we may see people have life events that just take them away from schooling for a little bit, but not forever. There is additional flexibility in this program that accounts for things like that as well. So this is meant to be something that you can come home from work and spend a few hours on, or if you're like me and you get up nice and early, maybe early in the morning when things are quiet, you're tuning into one of your lectures. I've even had people tell me that the way that they watch their lectures is that they watch it once on 1.5 speed, and maybe while they're like going on a run or doing chores around the house, and then they sit back down again and they watch it on 1.0 speed to really make sure that they heard all the information. So lots of different ways to do it. So as you can see here, submitting those transcripts, official or unofficial, really, really helpful. We can hold on to unofficial transcripts for a little bit and have them act as though they're official until it's really time for those official ones. So they can be a bit of a placeholder. We do need a current resume or a CV. Feel free to throw whatever one you have, as long as it's accurate. If you haven't looked at it in a few years, maybe take a brief look at anything else that's important, but no need to redo a CV or a resume for us. One that you have just kind of on you is great. 2 letters of recommendation. These can come from folks that are in the industry, that are out of the industry. What this really is for is that when I'm looking over an application, I've got some information, but not all information. I've got what you tell me. I've got what a school tells me through grades, but what I don't know is what you don't know. And so one of the most helpful things to get a peek into that realm is to have these recommendations. So they do not have to be professors. They do not have to be your employer. Somebody who can speak about you in a professional capacity is our most valuable recommender. And then once we have these things in, once we have the minimum number of classes, which is 3 out of 5 classes before we're able to move on to an interview, then we invite you to an interview. And that interview is just a wonderful time to make sure questions are getting answered and that you are, feeling really good about this program and joining us. You'll be speaking with somebody who is a professional in the program, typically somebody who's a professor or a program director. And so they'll have just a real wealth of knowledge to be able to answer any final questions you have. And after that, this part is important, is a $300 tuition deposit. This lets us know that you are coming in the fall. So one of the reasons we have that priority deadline is because every year in June and July and August, the applications start coming in and we get a little bit closer to our maximum number of people each year. And if we were to reach that maximum number of people, we would look at those folks who had applied at July 22nd's deadline and before we moved on to the ones who had applied after that deadline. So that's just a little behind the scenes for you. Probably will be okay wrapping stuff up in July. That's not said to scare you, but if you have the ability to do it sooner or after your application is processed, if you're admitted into the program, that $300 tuition deposit is really, really handy so that we know that we're going to see you in October and we can start getting things ready for you. All right, tuition, financial aid, always a wonderful thing to talk about. Tuition is due on the first day of the quarter and is calculated by the number of classes that you have signed up for. So the way that we're going to look at that is that you get to sign yourself up for classes. You will have a program planner. It's available online right now if you'd like to see it, or I can send it your way in our student services department that shows you when things are offered and what term they're offered, if there are any prerequisites, and utilizing that and our academic advisors, we help you pick some classes and you sign up for them. If maybe you would like fewer classes, a little bit lighter of a tuition that term, you can do that. That's no problem. If perhaps this is a good time to take a few different classes and maybe have 3 classes, as long as that is okay within your plan, that should be just fine for us. So tuition, financial aid is also something that we welcome questions about. If you check it out on that screen, you can see FinAid at uws.edu is a great address for you to check out. That is our financial aid office. Even better than that, we online have a financial aid webpage that is really comprehensive. It has an incredible amount of information in it. So if you've not yet taken a look at that, if maybe you have some questions about the FAFSA, when it needs to be completed by, just the basics of financial aid, I really would suggest just a quick read through there when you have some time. And something important here, we do need you to remain in good academic standing. So that 3.0 GPA is an important thing for you to aim for while you're enrolled in any of our programs. All right, so some next steps before we dive into that question answer box. I can see stuff piling up in there. I know I mentioned it a million times. It is a great time to connect with our advisors and get some conversations going and seeing if maybe this fall is a good time for you. I've had a lot of conversations with people recently who may be deciding between fall and spring. That's a very common question. There's a few ways that you can approach that. You can be ambitious and we can aim for this fall. And if we need to, we can pick up and move your application to the spring. Or hey, you can aim for spring, be a little bit more conservative with that. And if you happen to just really rock those prerequisites, you're like, man, got them out of the way so much sooner than I thought I would, we can move you forward. Moving you forward is a little bit more risky. You have to do it by a certain date and everything. If the term has already started, if we're right next to a term, we may not be able to do it. But again, that is a perfect thing to chat with us about individually. Let's make a plan. Let's look through your unofficial transcripts. Let's talk about your dreams. I love connecting with people. I tell people I'm a professional question answerer, and that is certainly true. uws.edu, also another great place for you to check out. Now let me dive into this question and answer box and see what I can see. All right, so some folks have some questions about, hey, I didn't take a formal class, but I have heard before that you can kind of like test out of these classes, that I may have taken something that counts and can be utilized towards that prerequisite. That is definitely true. So the way that you would do that, if you have taken maybe an NTA certificate, an IIN certificate, let me know. Those can count for nutrition. They are a wonderful substitute. If you're somebody who is in a healthcare science, we sometimes see nurses who, hey, they didn't take a formal medical terminology class, but boy, they sure know about medical terminology. We can definitely make some exceptions in those realms. It is not always me who is making those exceptions. Sometimes we have to pass it up to the powers that be. In those cases, it is often helpful to have a syllabus or a short summary of some of those things that may be compelling for your case. But if that is what you have, I would be happy to pass it along and help you figure that out. So the way you would schedule that advising appointment, this is a great question. The easiest way, go to uws.edu. At the top, you're going to see one of those tabs says admissions, and one of them is going to say both connect with admissions virtually or meet the admissions team. If you go to meet the admissions team, find the gal on there that looks like me, that's me. You should be able to click on there and find my schedule and then be able to reserve a time. Something to note at the top, it will make you choose which appointment you want. So if you're like, man, Georgia, it looks like you have nothing available for weeks and weeks and weeks, you may just have to choose the appointment at the top. You'll choose DCN or the graduate certificate or the master's degree, and then you'll answer a few questions, but then you'll get to see my schedule. You'll get to pick out the time that works for you, and then I'll give you a call right at that time, and we will have an entire hour to discuss things, though we never take an entire hour, maybe once or twice if the conversation's really good, but I like to book that time to make sure that we have ample time to discuss anything that you're curious about. So that is a wonderful way to do it. Head to our website, head to the admissions tab. Connect with Admissions Virtually has that link in past webinars, but meet our admission team is probably the easiest way to do that. All right, let's see what else we have for the biology and anatomy courses that people are chatting about. So it looks like they have logged on and seen that for some of these, they have biology part 1 and biology part 2, anatomy and physiology part 1 and anatomy and physiology part 2. Do you need both parts? No, you do not. You need just one of those parts. So just one class in biology, microbiology, cell biology. Sometimes we can get away with like mammal biology. That one, let me see the syllabus, but maybe we can definitely take just one of those classes. Same thing with anatomy and physiology. No need to take 2. No need to take a lab if you would not like to take a lab. Just that subject area is great. All right, let me see. Some people are asking, can I defer a year? What if I apply, but I don't really have plans for this year? I'd like to do it like way in the future. You get up to 2 deferrals after an acceptance. So let's say you are accepted for this fall, and then you figure out that the fall actually will not work. That's okay. Let us know. We can move it ahead 2 times. So that means that we could jump a whole year ahead of time, or we could jump 6 months ahead of time. So if maybe things change in your plans, no problem, let us know. All right, I'm gonna look for just one more question. We are coming in hot at the end of our webinar, and I wanna make sure we have time to follow up with some of these more individual ones. It looks like a lot of the ones we have left are highly individualized. So I wanna make sure that I get to answer all of your questions. All right, and then folks have asked just for this fall, what are those final deadlines? So July 22nd is the one that you're going to want to be on the lookout for this fall. So that is our priority deadline. That is the one that if space were to fill, we would go to that list before the people who applied afterwards. Then August 5th is the next deadline that you're going to want to be on the lookout for this fall. That August 5th is our final deadline. After that happens, that should be a Friday. If it's not, then I mean whatever Friday is closest to August 5th. If that deadline is the very final one, but let's say you have a few prerequisites still outstanding that you are wrapping up, we have a little bit more time for those. So those prerequisites are due on August 19th. So August 19th will be the very last day you can get those prerequisites done in time for an October 3rd. That should be a Monday for an October 3rd start. So I will leave you with those dates. I will check out the rest of those Q&As, those questions rather, after we, hang up with each other. But thank you so much for joining me. I sure appreciate it. I hope you have learned a lot. If anything is something that we can help with now or in the future, please do be in contact. But thanks so much and have a fantastic rest of your day.